Welcome back to Roosevelt Live. This segment of the show, we're going to talk about the young lady, 18 years old here in Port Richey, that held her 7-week-old baby boy under a faucet where the water reached 142 degrees, letting the water go into the baby's eyes, ears, nose, mouth, basically all over the baby. Held the baby's head under the water to the point that they said the baby's skin started to bubble. When your baby is that young, any child, but when a child is that young, obviously the ability to fight off infections is probably almost zero. I think they had to put the baby into a medically induced coma. They say that the baby is going to have to have, if it survives, will have to have multiple surgeries throughout its life. You have an 18-year-old that had just had a baby less than 2 months ago. Somehow in her twisted mind, she thought the baby would stop crying if she held the baby underneath hot water or any water. See, I know in this world we can't stop people from having children into a sense where, I mean, non-criminals. Maybe if it was something criminally, maybe you can do something, I don't know, but at least I know just everyday citizens, we can't prevent them from having children. But it's clear to me that this young lady here was not equipped to be having a child, any child that's more than 7-week-old, that she was upset because the baby was crying. Now you figure she was 18 years old, she should have known better than to do what she did. But now that poor child is ruined for life. If that baby boy survives, his life is ruined. I can only imagine how painful that must have been. I know in my home where I turn the water on to do something and then I put my hand over there and that hot water hits me and it's like, whoa. Imagine that constantly running on you. Not just on your hand that burns, but in your face, in your eyes, in your ears. It's just so sad. It's just so sad. It just makes my inside turns to hear that somebody's out there now. Of course, she's been charged with aggravated battery or whatever the charge is. But hey, that's not good enough for me. That's just not good enough. I don't know what the charge should be, because that child is ruined. If that little baby boy survives, he's ruined. I mean, I don't know what degree. Who's going to pay for these multiple surgeries? She doesn't have any money to pay for them. Probably didn't have any insurance. And now, of course, willingly, we the taxpayers are going to have to pay for this innocent child to try to get the best medical care hopefully he can get. And we're hoping that that happens, because a lot of times this world is about money, and sometimes people wondering where the money going to come from to take care of this child. And I hope money wouldn't be an issue, that it would be no issue at all, because this little baby boy is ruined. I don't even know if I don't know if he'll be able to see again after having that kind of hot water. You know, I don't know how did they find out? I don't know what happened. It's just terrible. And sometimes I wonder. I mean, at 18, yes, you have a long way to go in your life. Excuse me, but you're not an idiot. Well, in that case, she was idiot acting. Was there something wrong with her? Did she have some type of mental problem? I don't know. But to hold a baby under scalding hot water, I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. When I think about it, it almost leaves me speechless. To think about how that child must have been in agony, and how they have to try and figure out what they're going to do. That child may be blind now. Who knows what the situation will be, because the baby was so young. 7 weeks old. 7 weeks ago. Baby's crying. Natural thing. And this person here doesn't understand that. It's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. And I don't know what you could just talk about it over and over again. I think a lot of these young people that's having these babies, maybe, you know, we need to start making the adoption laws a little easier for people that want to adopt children, because some of these people are not fit to be mothers. Did I just hear recently that some guy, hit or punched or shook a little kid here locally just a few weeks ago because the baby wouldn't stop crying? I mean, what's wrong with these people? I mean, you got to know that that kind of stuff is not going to solve the problem. But maybe they think so, and they twisted minds, and those minds have to be twisted. I think we need to, first of all, we need to encourage more kids not to have babies so young. Somehow, we got to get through to these kids to let them know that having babies at 18, 17, 15, is not the issue. I saw in the paper the other day, and I think I'm sure there was in another country, where a 15-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl had a baby. What in the hell is going on? A 10-year-old girl? Wow, and she gave birth. I think to a 5-pound, 6-ounce baby. I don't know if it was a boy or girl. We have to do something about this. If a 15-year-old is having relations with a 10-year-old, that's a high school student. 10 years old, you in the 4th grade or something? That's sick. It wasn't in this country. I don't know what country it was in, but I know I read it. And I was like, what the heck? But we got to do something about this. We got to figure out a way. The parents, I always believe things start at home. Even though I said this many times on this show, but at the end of the day, you as parents, we can be strict on our kids. We can preach to them. We can stress to them the importance of not having kids at such a young age, and we can stress to them about getting an education. But at the end of the day, no matter how much we talk to those children, at the end of the day, they're gonna make a decision. They're going to make a decision. Kids today can't say they don't know about birth control. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you could say, hey, that was a taboo conversation. It was taboo. Nobody talked about it. You don't want to talk about stuff like that. Now it's open. Kids know better than to be having unprotected sex. There's too many diseases out here that they can't get rid of, for one thing, and some out here that could actually kill you. So they know better. The boys and the girls, the young men and the young women, they know better. It's not like they can say they didn't know. But somehow, I don't know how much more parents and other mentors can do to these young people, let them know that having these babies at these young ages, that they're not equipped, they're ill-equipped to take care of. And that's just the bottom line. And somehow, we have to change the thinking. Because until we can change the thinking, things are never going to go right. We have to change the way they're seeing things. They're not seeing things in a logical way. There are days and years ago when it was very shameful for people to have babies out of wedlock. Now it's almost promoted. Now you have people deliberately seeking babies when they're not married to anybody. Well, most of the time it's celebrities, they can afford it with the money. But you shouldn't deliberately try to seek to have a baby and raise it on your own. Because I think babies, if they could, they could use a mother and a father. Now that's not always the case, but if it was an opportunity, then it should be at least examined as an opportunity, and not just people go out here and have babies and think their fathers are not necessary. Fathers are necessary, mothers are necessary. I know there's time when kids don't have their father, there's time when kids don't have their mother, but anytime there's a case that they could, they should. Because I think 2 parents in the home is always going to be better than one, unless there's something wrong with one of the two. But in a normal life setting, with everything else being equal, then 2 parents in a home, I believe, is an important thing. Because if we don't do something about these kids having kids, and then they don't know how to raise them, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been driving in my car. I was sitting at the light the other day at Bush and 50th, and I saw a young lady on her cell phone. And what caught my attention, she had the cell phone propped up between her shoulder and her ear. And she was facing the traffic. And there was a little boy with her about 7 paces behind her. And she wasn't even paying attention to him at all. And he was kind of jumping around and having a good time. And I kept thinking, what if? What if he accidentally steps out in the street? What would happen? This would be a tragedy. And then I remember the light changed, and when I pulled off, I looked back in my rearview mirror, and I saw her crossing the street with that cell phone still wedged between her ear and her shoulder. And I saw the little kid coming behind her. She wasn't holding his hand. He looked to be about maybe 4 years old. She wasn't holding his hand. She wasn't doing anything. She was engaged on that cell phone. And I've seen that multiple times of people on their phones and not watching their children. It's just ridiculous. I've seen men riding. I saw a man riding a baby, looked to be about 2 years old, on a bicycle the other day on the handlebars of a bike, and the man wasn't even holding the kid. The kid was facing, he was facing the man on the bike, and he was holding on his own. What if he hit a bump? That kid would have fallen backwards or forward and been injured severely. People are just, there's a lot of stupid people out here. I'm not going to bite my tongue. There's a lot of stupid people that are in charge of children that shouldn't even be allowed to be in charge of themselves, less more than children. It's just ridiculous. They're so hooked on these cell phones until they're not even paying attention to what goes on around them. I mean, I see it sometimes at my office. I see people walking by. As I can see out of the window through the blinds, I see people walking with children walking 10, 12 paces behind them down Bush Boulevard, where they could easily step out into the street, maybe throwing a ball up or maybe, doing something and just don't think and go behind whatever object they're playing with, and then somebody's going to hit them. And then that person that hits them, be it male or female, they're devastated because they just hit a child. And more than likely, it's going to kill them. Then you're going to have that mother or that father screaming and hollering. Well, there's no sense of screaming and hollering because these people need to get a grip. And they need to start paying attention to their children. And if they don't want these children, then they need to stop having these children. It doesn't matter what race you are. You need to stop having these kids if you don't want to take care of them. It happens in all races. People are not paying attention. People are not taking care of their kids. People are leaving their kids at home while they go into liquor stores, leaving their kids at home while they go gamble at the casino. People leaving their kids at home while they go party in clubs. Just all kind of crazy stuff. When all they had to do, you don't want to have any kids, you don't have any relations with nobody. And if you don't want to do that, then go have yourself sterile so we don't run the risk of having any kid that you can't take care of. Does that sound a little crude and unusual? I don't think so. Because if you're going to go out there and be irresponsible, you're going to go out there and shake a kid until their brain rattles. You're going to go out there and put your kid underneath scalding hot water. Then you don't deserve to have any children, period. I know we don't live in a communist country where we can go out there and start sterilizing people. I understand that. But sometimes in the back of my mind, you often wonder, what would be better than torturing these children unnecessarily? If you don't want the kids, then give them up for adoption. There's a lot of people out there that wants children very badly. I saw a thing on TV not too long ago where a guy was pretending, lying to all these families that desperately wanted children, and was taking these people money at the tune of somewhere between $5,000 to $15,000 a pop, and telling these people that they were babies out there. He went as far as getting sonogram, and just passing the same sonogram out to everybody, so the people would be really emotional when they saw the sonogram of the baby, on there, and then they got emotional about that. And then, he told them, they got there buying baby stuff. One people went out there and they borrowed, took out a loan to get the money to pay. Then they went and bought a van. All that stuff for a baby that was never coming. So we know there's a lot of people out there that would love to adopt children. There's a lot of children in these homes, in these orphanage, that would love to be adopted by somebody. There's a lot of kids that are out there that goes and lives in these, with these families for a while, where they wait to be adopted or whatever. But people, it's just sad. I think the states need to relax the laws, not as far as background checks on people to make sure they're not pedophiles or child molesters or whatever, but definitely some of the other rules that they have in place for people adopting children. Adoption should be free. In my mind, it should be free. Other than doing an extensive background check to make sure there's nothing wrong with the people that adopted the children, the adoption should be totally free other than that. Because the state of Florida, for an example, they're paying to have these children in these foster homes. They're paying to have these children sit there and wait to be adopted. So if they're already paying for that, why try to charge someone to adopt a kid? Why not just let the adoption be free after the thorough background check? That would be the right thing to do. I mean, it's crazy to try and charge people arm and leg to adopt children so the state can collect money. The state is losing money by having to pay people to have these kids in the first place. So why not just allow the doors to be open up for everybody that has a clear background and let them come in and adopt children? Because there's a lot of them out there that were deserving of a family to be raised up in. Why should they have to sit there and grow up among kids with no mother or father? That's sad. We shouldn't be doing that in America. Because Americans is going abroad to adopt children. Why? Because I think the adoptions are easier abroad. That's why they're going abroad. Because what other reason would they be going abroad for? I mean, you got the people. I don't know why Madonna and them adopt all these kids from other countries, and I know that Brad Pitt and his wife, I guess a couple of kids out of the country as well as have kids of their own. There's a lot of kids right here in America that could be adopted. And, you know, it's a sad state when we're not adopting our own. And I think we should. And I don't care who and what race adopting what race. I'm not going to get caught up in someone saying, oh, well, you know, the whites are adopting the blacks. Listen, I don't care who adopt them. As long as they're good people. Okay? It doesn't matter what color your skin is, as long as you're good people. That's what I care about. And an adoption will be open up to all people, and when the government makes the adoption processing free. Somebody may say, well, we got to process it. I don't care, because we're costing money to keep them in these adoption areas. These areas where they wait to be adopted. It's costing us money to have these kids go and stay with these people temporarily until they can be adopted. And sometimes the foster parents wind up adopting the children, and sometimes they don't. Foster homes where kids come and go. So we know that already. So let's open up the doors and allow the adoption to be free. Every kid that's adopted, less money the state has to pay to keep these kids a house while they look for someone to adopt them. And I think the kids wouldn't get so high in age, so older in age, if the government made it easier for people to adopt. People are a little skeptical about adopting, you know, a 15-year-old or something like that. Of course, when they start getting those ages, people get a little weird, because you don't know at what point, what are they set in now? How are they functioning? I mean, they've lived 15 years without any parents around, and you don't know, you may have a problem with those kids. Maybe problematic, and that's bad in itself, but that's what people look at, and that's what people concern themselves with. So I'm just saying that more younger kids will get adopted quicker if the process was different. Because we can't have these people keep having these babies, just ruin these kids at an early age when they don't have no business with no kids in the first place. I mean, and the ones that did make their way into adoption, into areas where they opportunity to be adopted, that picking process alone must be sad. And people going in looking at kids like they're looking at clothes, deciding which kid would fit good with anything, like which shirt would go good with their pants. And it's sad. And we don't know what kind of abuse those children are going through. And we don't know how they came about. Were they kids with crack mother, drug addict parents? We don't know, because if so, you got other problems. Some of the kids in there won't know if they've been abused or not. You don't really know what's going on. So it's a hit or miss in the dark sometimes, that you can try to get a kid and hope that he or she winds up being a good kid. There are kids out there that have been adopted. I understand Gerald Ford was adopted. If I remember right, he wound up being president of the United States. So it's not that because you're adopted you can't wind up being a productive person in society. Steve Jobs, if I'm not mistaken, he was an adopted kid, and we know what happened to him. So there are people out there. There's good kids everywhere. And I just think we need to start looking at the situation better, and realizing that we got to get these kids out of the hands of people that don't deserve to have them, and get them in the hands of the people that do deserve to have them. And I think it'll be a better process. Maybe one day we'll get more information on the adoption process here, at least in the state of Florida, and try to find out how does this work, because I know people that would say they would like to adopt children, but I think most people don't know the process. But I mean, it's not that hard to find out. I'm sure a little research, go out there on Google a little bit. Not that I'm trying to promote Google for anybody, but most people do Google today. So you go out there and you check, well, whatever search engine you use, doesn't matter. It's out there. So we should go and check and see what's going on. And those are just my opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. But we got to put a stop to these children being abused. That's a must. We got to start there first. Everybody knows how to reach me by now. If you don't, you can catch me every Wednesday and Friday, 6:30, 7:30. That's Bright House Channel 949, 950. If you're a Verizon person, channel 3036, and if you're a Comcast person, channel 20. You can email me, liveroosevelt@gmail.com. You can go out there YouTube and check out some of the previous shows, youtube.com/RooseveltLive.